We'll just give it like 2 minutes to let everybody kind of filter in. So we've got people coming from academics who are like sliding out of meetings and into lunch. Hello, everybody. While we're waiting, if you want to put into the chat where you're coming, like your name and what institution, because I know we have some that are from other schools or community organizations. Like that. Hello, Ty. Here we go. More people coming. It's a little bit of a weird flex, but I have a heated blanket on, but I'm melting. Take that off.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Earl.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Doing good. Yourself?
Good. You're looking well.
I'm working from home today. That's why. There's multiple meetings after meetings on virtually, so I can do that from home.
Yeah,
You can run up and get a coffee anytime I want, right?
that's
Very
right.
nice. And not spend $7.
Exactly.
Hi, Laura. Good to see you.
Nice to be here.
So for those who may have just arrived, feel free to put your name and where you're coming from. So like Tabitha put in the chat, Tabitha from UCRC. And I'll give it 1 more minute and then I'll start.
How many people registered?
11.
11?
Yep.
Okay. I think it's a busier time this year, getting into midterms and stuff. There's probably more students.
I have a few people who have requested the recording, which is why I asked. So even if they're not here to see it, they want to see it later. All right, I'm going to get started. So my name is Chelsea Graham. I'm the program coordinator of Recovery on Campus Alberta. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm welcoming Earl from Oxford House Foundation of Canada to join us today to talk a little bit about himself, his journey, some other people's journeys, and Oxford House. First, I'm going to start with the land acknowledgement. The University of Calgary is located in the heart of southern Alberta, which both acknowledges and pays tribute to the traditional territories of the peoples of Treaty 7, which include the Blackfoot Confederacy, comprised of Siksika, the Piikani, the Kainai First Nations, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, the Stoney Nakoda, which includes Chiniki, Bearspaw, and Goodstoney First Nations. The city of Calgary is home to the Métis Nation of Alberta, Districts 5 and 6. And because we are a provincial program, we also recognize that people might be here from treaties 4, 6, 7, 8, and 10. Just going to put this cool link that HCA had if you want to see more about the treaties and languages and peoples that are in your treaty. So Earl has been with Oxford House for 14 years in various positions and assumed the role of Executive Director on July 1st, 2019, the creator of numerous recovery housing models, including pre-treatment housing, which we're really excited about, entry-level housing, and the peer-supported Indigenous recovery housing model. From homelessness to Executive Director, he's a strong advocate for recovery, homelessness, and the peer-supported recovery housing model. He sits on one of the Calgary Mental Health and Addiction Leadership Group, the province's CSS coordinated Community Response to Homelessness Task Force, the Premier's Council on the Status of Persons with Disabilities, and the Public Security Indigenous Advisory Committee. Earl was nominated and awarded the Queen Elizabeth II Platinum Jubilee Medal, congratulations, from the Premier for his outstanding work and dedication to the mental health and addiction sector, and for his journey from homelessness to Executive Director of the Oxford House Foundation of Canada. Oxford House Foundation is the largest peer-supportive recovery housing organization in Canada with the most diverse list of recovery housing models in the country, from pre-treatment, entry-level and temporary, to monitored. COVID-19 specific. To peer and culturally supported Indigenous recovery housing for men and women, Oxford House Foundation has 27 homes across the province and is a prolific leader in peer-supported recovery housing. Now I'm going to hand it over to you.
Thank you, Chelsea. Wow, that sounded fantastic. Thank you for inviting me to speak. I'm honored. I always take up invitations to tell my story, no matter how painful it is, because people need to hear that recovery is possible, right? A lot of people that I associate with now have a hard time believing that I was homeless for 7 years, addicted for 20, and really just a mess in my previous life. A lot of that stemmed from childhood trauma. But I'm also an alumni of Oxford House. 16 years ago, I was a resident, and I fully believe that the peer support aspect helped save my life, along with my cultural reconnection. I just believe that my whole journey, sometimes I have to pinch myself. I was just on a call with Minister Furr, and it blows my mind sometimes the journey that we take and the accomplishments that we can make while we're going through our journey, right? And a lot of that is through doing exactly what I'm doing now, which is sharing my journey. I am First Nations, from Makwesagak First Nation in Saskatchewan. Growing up, we didn't identify as Indigenous. My mother didn't identify as Indigenous. She was actually quite ashamed of being from our cultural definition, but in the 60s, it was pretty rough. She would actually tell a lot of people that she was of Orient descent, to cover the color of her skin or the shape of her eyes. And I find that very powerful and very harmful for my mom to have thought like that of herself. I could only imagine what that did to her self-esteem and self-worth. My mom was never registered. I had just actually gotten my status card about 3 years ago, and it wasn't for the card or for any type of tax break or anything like that. It was to honor my mom. I think that's a better definition of why people go after it, especially in this day and age. But my trauma started when I was very young. One of the first memories I have was of my home life, was of the partying going on in the house, the fights going on. I say this openly and with with no regret or I guess damnation of my family and my upbringing. What was considered a spanking in my time would be considered child abuse now. And I fully believe that my generation, the generations before and the one after, are now paying the price from that with the trauma and the fear, the shame, of everything that goes along with that. That being said, my childhood wasn't all negative. There was a lot of positive when I was growing up, right? I was a nationally recognized freestyle wrestler. We were in the Guinness Book of World Records when I was 12 years old for the longest outdoor hockey game. My brother Les was the one always arranging the games and everything. So there was a lot of good. A lot of the friends I had, there's a lot of positives, but the underlying trauma and not dealing with it definitely rears its ugly head when you get older in life. When that's all that enters your mind. But at a young age, I was also sexually assaulted by a man, and that just compounded my shame. I didn't talk of that was my fuel. That was my fuel as an athlete, senior football, junior football, wrestling. It's not something that we spoke about openly, and it was very damaging to me in my younger years. My first blackout drunk was at 12 years old. And I actually, one of my friends and my ex-partner had to come and get me from outside a Canadian winter in the early 80s. And I had wandered out of the home, blacked out, and passed out in a snowbank. And if they didn't come out and ask where's Earl, or somebody saw me leave, I wouldn't be here today because I would have definitely froze to death. But that was my first use, and it wasn't. I never drank socially. I didn't know how. I drank to stop the pain, to mask the pain, to make me someone. False confidence, right? Is what alcohol did for me. But and then eventually, when I was about 17, 18, it was just full-blown addiction. I moved away from home at a young age, went back to Saskatoon, lived in the top of a house, did everything I could to drink. The partying was nonstop. Then the crime started. It was just a ongoing cycle, right? And my story is not unique. You would be surprised how many people have similar or identical stories to mine, especially from the generation, right? When I talk about getting spanked when I was a kid, my dad got it worse, and that's a different type of intergenerational trauma, right? It doesn't just happen. It didn't just happen to the indigenous population. When you speak about the indigenous genocide, I mean, almost every country has one, right? This is just Canada's unfortunate black eye that we need to work a little harder to to mend. And that's maybe before I continue, I'll let Chelsea play a short video that was made for me. My story would begin actually as a youth, as a young man, as a teenager, dabbling in alcohol and drugs, never thinking that it would become an issue like it did. Childhood trauma isn't the cause of addiction, but it's the catalyst for an emotional response to deal with it. And I chose drugs and alcohol to feed my shame of what had happened to me. And the pathway to homelessness was pretty much burning every bridge I had. When I was on the street and had met Jackie, she was a very kind, caring, very spiritual, culturally connected person. She was all about others. She was all about other people, right? And in the end, she was all about helping someone, and it ended in a way I'm sure nobody ever thought. Early in the morning, a group of guys had walked up to her and asked her for directions. She went up to the car. She was a very giving and helpful person, but she walked up to the car and one guy came behind her and stabbed her. She had bled to death on that bench on 17th Ave. For myself, my big healing process now is helping others. I broke
the circle, as they say, just paying it forward, sharing what I have. And it's free, but the dividends are priceless. When you see a family get back together, a dad or a mother get reunited with their children, you get a phone call a year down the way saying, hey, we just had a baby and I don't know who it is, and then they tell me, and it just validates that people heal, recovery is possible. I think we're extremely important. We're vital to the recovery sector. When you're done treatment, you need somewhere to go, right? You can't go back to the same living situation you were in or back to the streets. You know, it just doesn't work. You have to have a safe place where you can heal, and that's the gift of Oxford House, I would say, is having peer-supported housing. It's very, very important. I am Earl Thiessen. I am the Executive Director of Oxford House and also an alumni of our program.
I love that video. I always have to stop myself from crying when they talk about Jackie. And I always say, by her life being so selfishly taken, it inadvertently helped save mine. I honor her. I honor my mom by doing what I do. And now, after 14 years clean and sober, I honor all those people that we've lost due to addictions. 14, I mean 16, sorry. But that's why I say this is a gift. This is a gift to be able to do what I do, to be able to see other people heal. We just had a lady stop by the office yesterday. It was her 6-year birthday. And then she wanted to come and thank the staff in Oxford House for what we do, right? And that's what keeps me going, right? There is a negative side of recovery. I just found out that my first house lead of pre-treatment passed away. He had relapsed after years in recovery. I found out, I would say on one hand, I can count the people that are still alive from when I was homeless. It's just devastating. It just, and not everybody wants to heal, right? I understand that. I get that. When you're ready, you'll take that step. But we have to do our part and make sure that when people are ready, we're there at an instant, because that window of opportunity closes pretty quickly when people get stuck in their head, right? And that was one of the main purposes of me creating the concept of pre-treatment housing for Oxford House, right? There's no, I can't believe it, I'm finding out now, there's no other model like this, not just in Calgary or Alberta or Canada, in North America. We are the first and only licensed pre-treatment housing model in North America, if not the world. And that makes me proud. It also is providing a safe space for those people, because I went through detox 35 times, I think. Most of the time it was a pit stop to get healthy when I was all banged up from being on the street, or my skin started to go yellow from drinking so much, because my biggest vice was alcohol. But then when I found out how I could increase the effect of alcohol by mixing it with pharmaceuticals, I turned into a pharmaceutical addict as well. I thank Creator that fentanyl wasn't introduced to me when I was using, because I would probably most likely be a statistic, because I didn't even, half the time I didn't even look at the pills I was taking. And I didn't take one, I took a handful. I did OD twice. Right, I did get brought back once at St. Mary's Park, and the other time by the drop-in center on the riverbank. And I remember that distinctly because it's a scary moment that I look back on now, that I know someone was looking out for me because I had a bigger purpose. Right, I remember waking up on the riverbank, one shoe on, one shoe off, EMS over me with the paddles, just felt like somebody just jumped on my chest. And I asked what was going on, and they said, "We lost you for almost a minute." And me, being in the state I was then, thanked them, got up and walked away. And they're yelling at me to come back, and I just kept walking, didn't even turn around and look, right? At least I thanked them though. But that's one of the biggest moments that I know I was meant for something else than to. And after Jackie's murder, I was devastated. I I dealt with it for 4 months the only way that I knew how, which was drinking and drugging, right? So I didn't have to feel the pain. I remember sleeping outside and waking up, and I was crying, right? It was really life-changing, life-altering. And I want to do what I do, so hopefully I can help people not reach that point, right? Provide that opportunity before they end up with that. That took me 6 months just to lift my head up after that. But that was when and I joke with the CPS now because I work a lot with the Calgary Police. I joke about it and say that November 12th is when CPS, Calgary's Finest, knocked some sense into me, because I got arrested on 17th Ave. I was blacked out, and ironically, I can't remember what happened. It was right by where Jackie was murdered, so I don't know if I was sitting on that bench drowning my sorrows or what, but I went in front of the JP. I had 11 warrants for my arrest, and I figured I was going back to remand, right? I'd already done a few. My 7 years on the streets, about 3.5 of that was in prison. But I went in front of the JP, and that was the first time that I actually asked for help. He was in Edmonton over the intercom. It was about 6 a.m, and he came on. He said, "Mr. Thiessen, you have 11 warrants for your arrest, all these charges, blah blah blah." And then he asked if I had anything to say for myself, and I said yes. I need help. I need help dealing with my trauma. I need help dealing with my addictions. I need help to change my life, right? I need help dealing with the murder of my partner. And he asked her name, and I said, "Jackie Crazy Bull." Even saying that hurts. But he had told me that he heard about the murder up in Edmonton. It was actually a stabbing spree in 2007. During the stampede, there was 4 people stabbed, and Jackie's life was lost. But he said, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to release you on your own recognizance," which never happened, right? I had trafficking cocaine on my assaults, and he said, "I'm going to release you on your own recognizance. I want you to go get the help that you want and need, and I want you to clean up those criminal charges." So that morning, my toe was broken from Calgary's Finest stomping on my foot to wake me up. But my toe was broken, and I limped up to Renfrew Recovery. That was November 13th, 2007. And I've been clean ever since. right? That small window of opportunity that Justice of the Peace gave me was what I needed. And then this is where the pre-treatment concept came from. I was in Renfrew detoxing, and I applied for treatment, and I got a date for January. And I thought, I'm done. I'm not gonna make it. I'm gonna go back to the streets. Am I gonna OD? Right? Am I gonna end up in jail? Am I gonna make my treatment date? Am I gonna detox before then? But that's where the concept came from. Maybe I'll let Chelsea play our video for pre-treatment housing.
Well, my life in active addiction was a rotating door. Yeah, I mean, it took 20 years of my life away. Just stopped caring about myself, and I did a lot of damage. You know, Oxford has been a game changer for me, really. It's allowed me a platform to say, I don't want to be there anymore. You know, it's given me the opportunity to have clean clothes, a place to live, and a stable environment. It's secure. You know what I mean? It's a lot more secure than I've ever felt. For me, I gotta feel good about myself and do good, and I want to do good, and I am doing good. It's awesome. Pride is huge. You know, I mean, somebody's giving you a good opportunity because, you know, they know where you've been, they know where you're trying to go, and they're helping you. When it comes to dealing with the community aspect, Oxford House is vital. Absolutely.
That home that Tristan was in there, every associate minister and minister of addictions and mental health has visited that house. and through government support, the Alberta government, them seeing the importance and touring the home, that program now is fully supported by the government of Alberta, and it is free to clients accessing it. And it actually doubled thanks to the support of the government. We now have 4 homes, 20 beds, and the model. I visit the homes. It's my baby, right? I visit the homes and I've actually seen a couple people that I know from my past going through it. It's good to see that some are still out there trying, but the whole concept of the house is really one of the biggest missing pieces of the recovery-oriented system of care. And I developed it like a circle, right? You go into detox, you go into pre-treatment, you go into your residential treatment, and then you can come out and go into a long-term transitional home, right? It's just, I mean, I may have created the model for Oxford House, but the team that is working in there now, I kind of had to departmentalize the organization now because of all the growth. But the team that's working in pre-treatment, Victoria, Mike, Les, Lori, Cindy, Dawn, they're all developing it into something that I imagined, and I see it happening right in front of me. We have addictions counselors in there. We don't do the deep trauma therapy in a pre-treatment home, right? We give them some psycho ed. We do recovery coaching groups in there. We help advocate for them with the treatment centers that they're going to. We try and, this is one of the housing models that we want to get the people out of there as quick as possible. But we want them to participate in a few groups or so they get used to speaking in front of a group, because that's one of the biggest hindrances when you're in treatment, right? It takes you a couple of weeks to open up. We have the people ready and they're opened up when they go into treatment, so they can be like the buffalo, and go right into the storm and start their healing process, right? The team that we have in there is amazing. It's just, I'm so proud of them, of Oxford House, of all of our staff, right? It's amazing what we're doing here, and I'm so happy that people are starting to recognize the importance of recovery. I've noticed over probably the past, I'd say 6 months, 7 months, the people asking for recovery, seeking for recovery, going into day programs, applying for pre-treatment. There was three months. It was what was it? October, November, September. In those 3 months, we had 573 applications just for pre-treatment, right? Which some people look at as good, which we do, but we also look at how many people we turn away. I mean, I could have all of the houses in Calgary be pre-treatment and they would all be full. So, and thankfully, this is being recognized as a vital program, and we're talking about expansion into different cities around the province. I've been in talks with BC. I've been in talks with Winnipeg and Manitoba. It needs to be Canada-wide, and you will see, especially in BC, if this was fully supported by the government and access was free to the user, the only requirement was participation in the program, you'd have 20 houses out there and they would be full in a month. I say a month, people think that's long, but to get the whole process of everybody coming through takes a bit of time. The turnover rate for a bed at Oxford House when a person goes to treatment is about 12 hours. We have just enough time to clean the room, wash the bedding, get the room set up, and we're doing an intake, right? The team is amazing there. They're so dedicated. It just makes me happy. But again, that was developed from lived experience, right? The requirements in a long-term Oxford home are for you to be active. You have to be busy. You can't sit around and do nothing, because if you do that, you're going to start stepping backwards. And this again is speaking from experience, right? I was unemployed when I moved into Oxford House. I was actually finishing my treatment when I moved in. I went through Sunrise Healing Lodge here in Calgary, and that's where I reconnected with my culture. But I did the 6-week program, and then I did a 12-week long-term program, and then I did a 9-month living sober program. And that's why there's no end date at Oxford House, and we don't ask people to leave. You know, obviously, if you're going to use, you have to leave the house. We always give the option. I say this to my staff all the time. I was homeless. Don't evict people into homelessness. That choice is theirs. If they want to get help and come back in, very well connected with the Alpha House. That was my home for 3 years when I was on the street. Kathy, the ED, is a wonderful woman. We give them the option to go back into detox, because you have to, once you use, you have to leave. We're not jeopardizing the other 4 people's recovery. You had a slip. Let's get you back into detox to restore a little bit of clarity. And then we speak to the house, and the house decides if that's person that's coming back. And 9 times out of 10, the answer is yes. Right? There's obviously some restrictions. They're back on probation. They have to go to recovery-based meetings with other residents, because there is a requirement of at least 2 recovery-based meetings when you're in an Oxford House. We are recovery-oriented. We were the first organization in the city that allowed Suboxone, that allowed methadone, right? We understand the importance of that staged recovery, right? We don't want people obviously being on methadone or Suboxone for the rest of their life. but they need to work with their doctor and RAM and whoever else is involved to do a little taper program. Maybe it takes a year, maybe it takes 2. If that's it, so be it, right? And if it doesn't, then that's another situation that they'll have to deal with. But we understand recovery, we understand the stages, the steps it takes to be in recovery, to be abstinent, right? But I also would like to touch on the importance of the cultural reconnection for our people. The name of our first Indigenous recovery home was Oswegan was in Edmonton. We have Wolf Thin Legs in Calgary. We have Warrior Shield Home in Calgary. We have Red Woman House, which is for our life carriers. And then we just opened up, we opened up about a year ago, but we had the opening ceremony for Morning Star Rising Sun home in Edmonton. So now Edmonton has a male and a female Indigenous recovery home. Calgary has 3. And that is all about reconnecting to culture. When I was in Sunrise, there was something missing. I knew that. I knew something was missing. And I found that peace when I was in Sunrise. The cultural aspect, the spiritual aspect of their program helped me reconnect. And I fully believe, and I say this, when we're traumatized as a child or as a young adult, a teen, when you're traumatized, you disconnect from your being, from your spirit, right? You'll hear many survivors of sexual abuse say that they disconnected from themselves. And that happens with the trauma. And this is going back a century, more than a century, with the Indigenous population. And that intergenerational trauma is passed down. And a lot of people say to me, well, it didn't happen to you. Well, it happened to my mom. My mom didn't talk about from when she was thrown in a foster home when my grandpa passed away. She was put in a foster home at 6 years old till she was 16. She brought that decade of her life to the grave, and she drank herself to death. And I found her body. I was her caregiver for the last 3 years of her life. She didn't want help. That's where my understanding came from. My mom didn't want help. She didn't want to talk about it. Too heavy, too painful. I get that. That piece passed down to me. And that's where my intergenerational trauma is from, right? I have to turn off. I try and watch shows to get educated on what happened. I have to turn it off half the times because I just can't. I can't watch it. It's just, and then my mom and what happened to her, I kind of don't want to know. Right. I don't want to know. It would probably stir up anger and everything in me, and I don't want that. I'm trying to live more peaceful now. But that was the whole reason why I wanted to develop and open up peer and culturally supported recovery homes for Oxford House. We did the naming ceremony with in the Sweat Lodge with Hal Eagletail out in Sutina, and something hit me. All those that know about Sweat Lodges is pure black, and something hit me. I thought it was someone's towel, and it was a red print that was there. And when I spoke with Hal, said that the name of he gave us the name, presented us with the name Red Woman House, and that the name signifies the recovery and healing journey of our life carriers. It signifies the missing and murdered Indigenous women. And it impacted me because my mom was a survivor. Jackie is one of the missing and murdered Indigenous women. And that name just hit me, right? It was so powerful. And Hal told me, he said that this red print needs to be displayed in the home. So what I did was I sat at a I'm going to change my background here. I sat at the coffee table in that home, and this is a picture of what I was doing. I had the red print. That dream catcher was mine the first time I went through treatment in 2000. I got it off a guy, an artist in there. Is beautiful. But I'd given it to my dad when I was homeless and using and everything. And when I recovered, my dad gave it back to me. So that has been around for a quarter century, because the date on it when he made it was 1999. And what I did was I sat at the coffee table, lit my smudge, prayed that all the ladies coming through that home would find safety and comfort and healing in that home. And then I sewed it around the dream catcher. And that's what hangs right as you walk into the house. It's hanging right there. So that's synonymous with Red Woman House, and that house just means the world to me, right? They all do, right? But there's a little bit of an attachment. People are asking me, how come you're doing the opening ceremony on a Sunday? I said, because it's July 12th. It's my mom's birthday. And they understood, right? That house, Oxford House in general, has so much meaning for me. When I grew up, I was told real men don't cry. And now I know that's part of healing, and that it takes a real man to show his emotion. I'll show you, I'll get Chelsea to show you Tracy's video while I wipe my eyes.
I was part of the 60s scoop, and as a result of that, my identity as an Indigenous woman was stolen from me. My mother was a survivor of the residential school system and experienced a lot of trauma as a child. As a result of growing up away from my culture, there was a lot of shame I felt as an Indigenous child. I am torn between two worlds. I grew up in a Caucasian family and feel a sense of loyalty to them, and in both worlds, I feel like an outsider struggling to figure out where I belong. I picked up my first drink at 12 years of age, so I was extremely young. My life was just on a roller coaster from that point on. The feelings and stuff, I was able to numb what I felt, and it worked for many years. I drank for 32 years. Yeah, it took me 15 years to finally stay stopped, and that's as a result of coming to Oxford House. I was full of fear. I didn't know what to expect when I got to an Oxford House. I was able to get a job. I was able to start building relationships. I repaired a lot of my relationships with my children. I spent a lot of time going to meetings when I lived in an Oxford House, and a lot of that was not so much of the meetings themselves, but the companionship of people like me. I've completed my diploma in accounting. Currently, I'm working on my degree in accounting, and the goal, the end date, would be becoming a CPA. Oxford House is extremely important. I believe that had I not found and stumbled across Oxford House, that I would be dead. It gave me what I needed in order to be able to be self-sufficient and financially independent. I feel that Oxford House saved my life.
I love that video. Tracy has been with the organization for pretty much as long as I have. Our founder, Ron and Eve McMillan, I always say this, Ron saw something in us that we didn't see in ourselves. And he gave us both the opportunity to come and work with the organization. Right, 10 years later, I'm the executive director. I still can't believe it. But I just I feel recovery is a gift. Recovery is possible, and we all need a safe place to heal. The way that we see fit. That's why we don't double bunk. We don't put two people in a room. Everybody has their own room, right? You need a place to be you. And just we have 134 beds in the province, right? We have pre-treatment housing, pure and culturally supported Indigenous, long-term transitional with no end date. And then I have what we called when COVID was on, which was a temporary monitored homes. I have that model tucked away there. If anything ever happens, there's any type of crisis, I can pop that model right back in. That seems to be my niche in life, is developing housing models and creating, well, not so much developing, creating them. And my team runs with it. And they develop it and it into beautiful, meaningful housing models. But as you can tell, I love what I do. And it's painful talking about my story, right? And my wife has asked me, if you cry and it hurts so much, why do you speak about it? Because people need to hear it. People need to know that recovery is possible. And my story isn't, maybe my journey and where I ended up is kind of unique, but my story isn't unique. There are so many of us out there that are flourishing and having a huge impact on communities. And we're in recovery. We just choose not to, right? And then for us to share all of that and to share our spirit and our heart is what we all should do, right? The new superpower should be kindness. You never know what the next person on campus, you don't know what that person next to you has went through. Be kind, right? It's very simple, and you're doing your part to change the world. I'm very grateful for being here. I wish I had a box of Kleenex because I probably could have used it a few times here, but that's to me, that's fine. What I was when I was using was the person that trauma made me when I was on the street. It was the person that I thought I had to be. The person who you're speaking with is me. That's who the creator intended me to be. I joke around I got jealous on LinkedIn. I saw everybody's acronyms behind their names. So I wanted one. So I made one up. Mine says Earl Thiessen, MLE. And that's my Masters of Lived Experience. It took me 7 years to get, and it's an education I don't want anybody to get. But I share my experience, strength, and hope to help people reach out for help, right? That's your life can change by just reaching out and asking for help. I think there might be a few questions, so.
Thank you so much, Earl. I told Victoria, like, privately, I'm like, I wasn't expecting to cry so much in this. But thank you so much for telling us your story and for sharing the wonderfully inspiring and beautiful stories of Oxford House. They're just amazing, and I mean, make my heart full. So we had one question. I'll read it out. What a moving video. Thank you. I can see the incredible value of having pre-treatment beds, particularly given wait times at some treatment facilities. Could you please tell us what a day typically looks like for someone who participates on a pre-treatment basis and a post-treatment basis?
Yeah, for sure. Good question. You know, my pleasure sharing the videos, sharing our stories, our journeys. It helps people understand a little more uh, what many people have went through in their lives, and that the healing process is a journey. There's no destination there. It's a lifelong journey, right? I'll be learning for the rest of my life. I'm still learning now. But for pre-treatment housing, typically a day it's fully supported, food, everything is included. So you get up, you would eat, the staff in there are there, they, you know, they get everybody up. It's similar to, I don't want to say treatment, but it's like when we were young and mom would get you up and say, time for breakfast, time for school. We're starting all over in those homes. People are starting their lives all over. They lived a life and they have a past. And it's, to me, it's okay to look back at your past, just don't stare, right? But the residents get up, they all have their meal. There's a schedule where they have a psycho ed hour with one of the addictions counselors. And then they debrief and they speak with the recovery coaches. And then, you know, they have their afternoon meal, and then they come back, and the afternoon is a lot of recovery coach sessions that happen. We're trying to my recovery plan is also implemented in pre-treatment. So people are answering those questions. We need to get data on this, right? Because it's new. There's nothing like it. So one of the things we're really focusing on is the data, is the statistics, is the amount of people coming through, the amount of people going to treatment, which it's very, very successful, right? I would say about 73%. It was at 80 before. It's kind of dropped down to 73. I'm not gonna butter up stats because this is people's lives we're talking about, right? I'm not after funding or anything like that. This is people just like me and many other people. This is our lives. So I could say 83% of people were successful, but there's 10% of people that actually leave the program before they go to treatment. We don't count that as a success. It may be because they moved out clean and sober, but a success for us in pre-treatment is the person going to treatment. And we have MOUs with many, Simon House, Aventa, Indigenous Court, we have one with, right? Jaron is working on, and Victoria are working on on other ones, but it's really, really people are taking notice. But they do their recovery coach session and everything. We actually had a 15-person van donated to us. So what we do with that van now is they go out in groups to recovery-based meetings. They go to drum circles, right? We had just brought them in. We just had a sweat at the end of December, and I thought, what a good way to start the year, to then invite our pre-treatment residents, right? Because we don't normally, because there's a schedule they're on, we don't want to interrupt there because we're developing routines, right? But we brought them to the sweat, and they were all amazed. They were all appreciative. And the one Indigenous lady was talking to me, and she said, I've been in here for 4 weeks. I'm waiting to get into treatment. I don't know. She was questioning everything, right? And I said, have faith. You're safe. You're in a safe place. You have no worries right now. It's going to happen when the Creator says it's your time. She went into the van to lay down. She got the call while she was in the van to go to treatment. So miracles happen every day, right? But that's what we do. We're not full-blown treatment, right? There's free time throughout the day for them to talk to each other, for them to go have one-on-ones with the counselor or recovery coach. But that's daily. And most of the time, I would say a resident is through the home in about 3 weeks. and then there's that turnover, right? I'm really excited to see the numbers for the year of how many people went through the program, period. Not just the ones that went to treatment, but I want to see the impact that this is having. The amount of applications that are coming through is unreal. So we will. I know we will. We'll be expanding everywhere. But in long term, in pre-treatment, there's a set time that you have to be up. There's a set time where you decompress. It's a heavy program, right? People need time to decompress, have a snack at night, watch a bit of TV after their meeting, and then they go to bed. But in long-term housing, it's actually the house that runs the house. My staff, our staff, Oxford House's staff, they just oversee the homes. The homes run the homes. The people in the homes. Everyone has a responsibility to the home. Accountability is everything, and people will call you out while you're in the house, right? And that's where I say you have to be active. You have about a week to get comfortable, I would say. And then after that week, it's time to hit the ground and get moving. You can either look for work. We partner with prospects. So if you don't know how to write a resume, you don't know how to do a job interview, we'll hook you up with them, right? So there's lots of resources tied to long-term housing. We also work with a lot of the colleges and universities. If people are looking to further their education, which I'm a huge advocate of, right? I unfortunately I didn't take that route. I went to the other school, the hard knocks ones that I almost didn't make it out of. But I'm a huge advocate for education, and we have so many connections to help people, even with upgrading, to start that process. And if you're unable to work, because there are people that have a lot of damage, FASD, cognitive damage, some physical ailments, right, where you can't work. We try and push you to volunteering. If you can volunteer full time, even 3-4 days a week, that's good. We just want you moving forward, right? Put yourself out there. And then, of course, if people want some aftercare, they can do that while they're in the long-term housing, not permanently, but we allow them time to grow. And we've had, I think right now we actually only have about one person with us in Calgary that's been with us longer than 5 years. Everyone else is a lot of short-term people, because people are finding their niche. They're finding what they need. They're taking the steps that they have to move forward in their life, right? And not again, not every person is successful. We get that. But the success rate is way, like, phenomenally way above the national average of people that recover. I would say in long-term transitional, we're probably about 58% of people that move out, and that's good, right? We do celebrate the people moving out, but we also celebrate the people that choose to stay. I could have moved out after 6 months. Financially, everything was cleared up. It took me 6 months to get everything straightened out. I was still healing, of course. Something told me to stick around. So I stuck around for another 7 months after that. And I'm grateful I did, because that was all part of my growth process, learning leadership. There's a president, a secretary, a treasurer, a chore coordinator, and a safety supervisor in every house. And you guys your house will call you out if you're not doing your job. Houses
Sorry.
are all cleaned. Everything is good there.
Sorry to interrupt, Earl. We're just
That's fine.
at time. So I just wanted to read a quick comment. And first, before I read this comment, just my colleague is going to put a link in the chat. That's the survey for this event. Filling out the survey really helps us create more of these events and keep them relevant and keep them amazing like this one, and help us shape them going forward. So I just wanted to read a quick one. Earl, thank you for sharing your story. It takes
Yeah,
a lot
no,
of courage.
100%. I'll have to come back so I can keep talking about Oxford House.
Yeah, please do. We had one quick question.
Yep.
Do you work with on a dime transformations as well?
I was actually on their first panel, and I hired somebody from that panel at Oxford House. So yes, yeah, we've actually had quite a few, well, probably maybe half a dozen residents go through that program. So yes, 100% we do.
And then the last one was the comment. It takes a lot of courage and strength to do the important work which you're doing as a person in recovery. That person unfortunately had to step out, but as a person who is also in recovery, I can relate to so much of what you shared, and especially the importance of fellowship and connection. Having pre-treatment housing available for folks who want to help is incredibly important. I've seen countless people struggle with the transition to and from treatment. The Oxford House model fills an important gap in recovery system. So on behalf of everybody, I want to thank you for your time and thank you for doing this for us. And we're probably going to invite you back more for stuff later.
Thank you, my pleasure. Stay safe, everyone.
And hopefully
Thank you
do
so
maybe
much
a
for sharing.
collab.
Yeah, collab.
Thanks so much, Earl. That
You're
was
very
awesome.
welcome.
Thank you, Earl.
You betcha. Take care, everyone.
Nice to
Take
see
care,
you.
everyone.